Is your business struggling to stand out from the crowd online? At Webamax, we specialize in turning clicks into customers. From SEO and PPC to social media management and stunning web design, we've got you covered. Boost your online presence and drive real results. Ready to take your business to the next level? Visit Webamax.com. That's Webimax.com for a free digital analysis. Rule the web with Webamax.com.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at Marines.com.
And welcome back to a new episode of the Skating Penguin Network, everyone. No mailbag today. We completed our part one of this week on Monday. Go ahead and listen to that. As we've been doing last week, Snail and I talked to CJ Gamble of Just Do It Hockey, a up-and-coming hockey brand, gear brand that CJ is running, recreating classic Nike hockey looks. Go give that episode a listen as well. You guys have already done very well on that episode in terms of views. It's one of our top performing episodes of the past month. Very good numbers. So we thank you guys so much for that. Now on to this episode. I am once again, obviously, as always, joined by Snail. Snail, I don't know what it's like out in the Seattle area, but we are getting what they're calling the beginnings of a heat dome forming over our area, and it is about to get very, very warm here in Pennsylvania. It's about 85 today. Some areas could be up to 95 by the middle of next week. So summer is coming quickly here. It was actually chilly at the beginning of the week, but summer is coming in full effect over the next week or so here in Western Pennsylvania. How are things out in the Pacific Northwest?
Well, first off, I had to just look up what a heat dome was. It's a weather phenomena consisting of extreme heat that is caused when the atmosphere traps hot ocean air as if bounded by a lid or a cap. That doesn't sound comfortable. That sounds muggy. It feels like, I assume, what it's like being trapped in like a one of those like microwave safe bowls with the film on top that you use to heat up like noodle packs and stuff. I can't say the same for out here in the Pacific Northwest. It's actually, we're just like comfortably easing into summer. Every day lately has been nicer than the next. It was actually like nice and chilly this morning, like not chilly, but like fresh, cool air, had the windows open. And then it's about 2:40 right now, Pacific time, and just closed all the windows up and turned on the AC and the fan to keep things nice and cool.
Yeah.
So beautiful blue skies, the birds are out. It's not too hot yet. It's comfortably hot right now. Like I'm still wearing pants and a t-shirt and stuff, but it's not scorching. So yeah, hopefully it just continues this nice climb into true summer, and then and we don't experience too many highs and lows, but that's just not the way the world works anymore. We'll probably be trapped in a heat dome before you know it too. Or we get the wildfires out here. Do you ever have wildfires?
Not so much right where in like my general area. Now we've gotten smoke from wildfires. If you remember last year, the Canadian wildfires really dipped down into the United States. You had this picture of New York City looking like a post-apocalyptic movie. But yeah, we'll get some smoke. We definitely got some smoke last year. Generally, unless we get long dry spells, we generally get enough rain to tamp down any major fire risk. But I will say that this next week, it looks like it's basically just heat. So the fire risk will definitely be elevated in our area. But for the most part, I live in areas of like patchy forest more than just like expansive forest that covers acres and acres. You might have some forest behind a house that takes up some space, but I don't, and I don't live where I live. I don't have any vast forests. I have some trees and stuff like that. So it's not
too dangerous, but generally the humidity and the rain keeps the risk low. But if we get this long spell of just heat, we definitely have to be careful. So, yeah, I know out west it's definitely a big issue, especially in your area down through Oregon into California, especially is where it always seems to kick up, especially this time of year.
Oh yeah, it's usually those Canadian wildfires out in like Kelowna, like in eastern BC that
Yeah,
just smoke us out so bad. And it's like, yeah, that New York photo, it looked weird because I've never seen like, I mean, obviously seeing New York with wildfire smoke is just odd. But
yeah,
in Seattle, it's nothing new. Every summer we have at least a
yeah,
week out of the summer where you can't see, you pretty much can't see at the end of your block. It's almost like fog. It's really bad. You're not even supposed to go outside. I remember the first time we had a really bad one maybe like 5 years ago or
mm-hmm.
so. And I was just like, yeah, it's super smoky out. And I was like down at the lake swimming. And they pretty much said you might as well have smoked like a pack of cigarettes if you were out in that smoke that day. And I was out there swimming around in Lake Washington having a grand old time. So we're a lot more hip to I mean, these things are just going to become more and more popular from what it sounds like. Unfortunately, due to global warming and all that kind of stuff, whether you believe in it or not, seems to be a new trending pattern. It's hot every summer and crap like this happens. So, but like I said, we don't have to fret yet. It's beautiful
Yeah.
here right now. You're in a heat dome. Good luck with that. You got the AC all cranked up and stuff in your house?
Yeah, we definitely have the air conditioning running. We haven't really had to use it that much until we had a couple days here or there, and at nights it would stay a little warm in the house. But right now, this is really the first extended spell of heat that we've really been called for this year. So it'll be, and even Friday and Saturday are supposed to even be a little bit on the chilly. I won't say chilly, but on the right around 80, mid 70s. But then Sunday, basically through the end of next week, it's really supposed to kick up. So it's going to be a warm one, that's for sure. But I guess next week is the official start of summer, so I guess it's fitting in a way. So.
Wonder if David Quinn has any opinions on
Yeah.
the heat wave they're about to be trapped in.
Well, David, yeah. So, getting into our, I guess, main topic of this episode, we do have some Penguins news, and it is the Penguins have officially replaced Todd Reardon on the coaching staff. Former Rangers and San Jose Sharks head coach David Quinn um, will be taking over the reins behind the bench alongside Mike Sullivan. The original belief was that he was going to be the one-for-one Reardon replacement, but it appears that he will actually be the defensive assistant on this staff. So he'll be working with the likes of Chris Letang, Eric Carlson, who he was head coach of in San Jose when Carlson had 100 points and won the Norris Trophy in 22-23. So an interesting hire. When he became available after being fired from San Jose, it was definitely a name that kind of, I think a lot of people had floating around. He is good friends with Mike Sullivan from their time at Boston University. So very familiar with Sullivan, probably familiar with Sullivan's system. And it hasn't worked out for him as a head coach yet, but he'll get a shot as an assistant here with the Penguins. He has some talent to work with on the blue line. So I think it's an intriguing hire. A lot of people weren't thrilled with it. But again, an assistant coach, I don't know really whose name was really out there. Assistant coaches, you probably don't hear too much about. But it will be David Quinn, and it has been official. So he will be behind the bench coming next season.
A couple thoughts on this. First of all, I wanted to say David Quinn has never really been set up to have much success in the NHL.
No, absolutely not.
New York hired him, and it was kind of a sexy hire, guy coming out of college. But that they had just waved the white flag, like they were in the midst of what was their not a rebuild traditionally, a retooling. And San Jose they'd been selling off. I mean, they still had some of their assets when he was hired. Tough year for him in San Jose, but that team, you could have had John Cooper coaching that team, and I don't think you were gonna get much out of that roster. I think they wanted it that way. It paid off. They got Celebrini, so he actually did do his job there. They got the Golden Goose for this year's draft. But anyways, haven't been reading too much into this. I kind of wanted to let it kind of marinate for a day or two before I started looking into stuff. But yeah, don't know why I didn't see this coming. It, at first, it reeked of a lazy hire to me. Like let's just go pull one of Sullivan's buddies. And I mean that's the NHL for you, Robbie. You got to be like, I mean it's how often do you see like a guy like Chris Knobloch? He's a more rare story in the NHL. They're usually plucking someone's buddy, someone they worked with, someone. I was honestly really hoping to see someone within the organization, someone new. We talked on here quite a bit about a Trevor Daley or a Matt Cullen. Pull someone up that's within the organization already, but not going to get that this time around. But I think David Quinn, like you said, he's familiar with Carlson and when he had his Norris Trophy winning season in San Jose. And he also was he coached Drew O'Connor for Team USA when Drew O'Connor had a hell of a tournament out in Europe. So, the Penguins have been out of the playoffs now for 2 seasons, and we kind of know where they're at in their process. And so I'm not mad at the hire. I'll be interested to see what he can do with that back end. And so does that mean that they're looking for a power play coach still, or does that mean they're going to fill it internally as well?
Well, they still the other assistant's still there. I mean, he hasn't been. Yeah, I mean, he's still there. I don't know if they're just going to swap things around. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. They didn't really specify that. It's just saying that David Quinn will be in charge of the defense. That's all I really know. One thing I'm interested in seeing is David Quinn going to find his way into a coaching role or some kind of role with Team USA going forward with Mike Sullivan? Not saying it'll necessarily be behind the bench. I think you'll get 2 NHL guys back there. I think you'll see if Laviolette continues to find success in New York. I think Laviolette is a candidate to go behind the bench. And there's still not a ton of American coaches in the league. So I'll be interested to see if David Quinn does find some kind of role with Mike Sullivan and Team USA in these coming years. We know that Mike Sullivan will be the head coach for those upcoming tournaments. But I don't know.
Rob.
I'm not saying it'll necessarily be a behind the bench role. It could be very well. He has experience at the international level. Mike Sullivan really doesn't outside of an assistant role, I believe. So I definitely think he could lean on Quinn in that situation as well. In some form or fashion, whether it's an advisory role or if Mike Sullivan is happy with David Quinn as a coach, he could bring him on as an assistant come 4 Nations / 2026 Winter Olympics. So that'll be just something to keep an eye on as well. But as other than that, I don't know what they're going to do with the power play. I don't know if Mike Vellucci is taking the reins there. I really thought they were going to do a 1-for-1 swap with Reardon and Quinn, but that appears not to be the case. I will say that in the second half of the season, San Jose had a top 10 power play in the league, and it didn't have near the weapons that the Penguins have, obviously. So I thought really that was going to be one of the intriguing things, but apparently that will not be the case. So we'll see what the plan is there. I don't know. They really didn't clarify that, so I guess we'll find out in the future what the plan is there. So.
Yeah, you never know what kind of conversations are going on behind closed doors. I assumed when I saw the hiring that that's the position being filled, defense and power play. But the fact that the power play was such a glaring issue for the Penguins last year, and they did not include that in the description of his job description tells me. Yeah, and you know what? I think is it Ty Hennes, the skills coach?
Yeah,
or like skill development or something like that.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be another change back there. I think they either need to literally hire a power play coach or I don't know. Vellucci's been there a few years and unfortunately he hasn't really been a part of a ton of success with the Penguins behind the bench. I thought he might get plucked for a head coaching job. A couple of years ago his name was out there. I think the Penguins had granted him permission to speak to some teams. Do you remember that at all?
That was, I believe, the year that
That's the year they lost to the Islanders?
Yeah, I think it was the year they lost to the Rangers in 22. I think it was because the Bruins have moved on from Bruce Cassidy, and I believe he interviewed with the Bruins at one point. But that could be wrong. But he definitely did interview with teams for job openings at one point.
I want to say he interviewed with the Devils, like back
he
before,
might have.
Maybe when they had first let Travis Green go or something like that.
I can't remember. I don't know if he did any this
Travis
year.
Green.
I can't.
Travis Green was this year.
Yeah.
It was who's the other American coach? Maybe the
John Hines.
John Hines. Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah, it could have been that as well. Yeah.
I was always curious if he was going to get another sniff, but maybe the fact that the Penguins haven't exactly been super relevant with, as far as success goes, people are kind of forgetting about him. So I guess we'll see about this. This power play coach. I think there needs to be some sort of changing of the dynamic back there because we've seen it's not working.
Absolutely. So, in other Penguins news, this is just a report. This has not been confirmed by the team or anyone else, but it appears that Grant Potolny is to be named the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins head coach, which is the Penguins AHL affiliate. He is former AHL teammates with Penguins assistant general manager Jason Spezza. Spezza has a big hand in the AHL team, so it does appear that Grant Potolny will be the next Wilkes-Barre Scranton head coach. He's considered a fast rising star in the coaching world. He just left Northern Michigan University where he was a coach, and they said the report was in order to pursue an unnamed professional opportunity, which College Hockey News said would be at the AHL level. AHL insider Tony Androkaitis said he can't confirm anything, but Grant Potolny becoming the next Wilkes-Barre head coach would not surprise him. He was like I said, he was teammates with Jason Spezza, who has been leading the coaching search down there. So don't know much about Potolny, but it does sound like he's a rising star in the coaching ranks. So what better way to jump to the professional ranks than with an organization like the Penguins? So we'll definitely get some professional experience down there, and who knows where it goes from there. But it does look like Grant Potolny will be the next head coach of the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. We're just waiting on an announcement from the franchise.
Saw that as well. As you said, not totally confirmed. I actually saw this on former name of the podcast, Pennsburg. Your boy Hooks Orpik drafted up the article. I read about that. Nice little piece about what is probably going to be the next head coach of the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. Coming from college, I mean, dude, one of the big things that Dubas has made abundantly clear is that he wants the American Hockey League to be competitive again, and he wants them to be they're trying to rebuild almost the culture down there as well. So if this is a great opportunity for a guy like Potolny to get in there, and then he's got an opportunity to really run with it here. So
and it's again, the Penguins are a massively successful franchise. I know that we can talk about the prospect depth, but it's a well-run franchise. It's a franchise that wants to win, and I can't think of many opportunities to break into the professional ranks and with a team like the Penguins. So it'll be very interesting to see what he brings, assuming he does end up being the head coach there. So we'll keep an eye on that, and once we get confirmation, we'll talk more about it, obviously. But until then, that is what is being rumored. And for the Penguins, from the Penguins angle, that's pretty much it for.
Oh no, I got a rumor for you.
Oh,
Patrick Laine looking to get out of Columbus. He's making 8.7. Who gave that guy 8.7 million? All that dude is play. All he does is play Fortnite.
Jarmo Kekalainen, who gave him that contract. Yes. So if the Penguins are interested, I would have to see some probably retainment on that, because that is a lot of money.
Would you take him at half at 4.375?
I think if you're getting 30 goals from a guy like that, which you could very well see with playing along against a Crosby or Malkin, 4.5 is an absolute bargain.
I don't even know if I'd want him playing in the top two lines. I'd want him as a Phil Kessel. He's on the left flank on the first power play unit, and he's a third line right winger.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 4.5 is pretty cheap for even a third line guy that's going to be putting in some goals, hopefully. So, has no interest in playing defense whatsoever.
No.
Definitely needs a fresh start because the situation in Columbus is not super great. Things you don't know what the situation, how it'll turn around with the new GM, but still not a great situation there. Never really worked out for him. But if they are interested in trading Johnny Gaudreau, I would be very interested in that conversation.
Really? Johnny Hockey?
I would have very, very interested in Johnny Hockey, but I don't see them doing quite that. He seems to be a part of the future with Fantilli and some other, and they have another high pick this year, so it'll be interesting where they go with that.
I'd take Fantilli. I'd sell
the
farm for Fantilli.
Yeah, I don't think they're getting rid of Adam Fantilli, but yeah, I'd be very much willing to sell the farm if that were to come available. But yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath on that one.
Would you? Or actually, I did a little bit of research. I noticed that Line, known Fortnite player, the year Fortnite came out in 2017, and that year he had 30 goals, and every year after that, it's been a steady decline. So. They need to. I think that if the Penguins were to write into his clause somehow, if they were to pick him up, he cannot have a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox One at all. Like, he cannot have one in his household.
Yeah, he definitely. I do remember those stories circulating about him being obsessed with Fortnite. So he's gonna have to figure out what he wants to. If he wants to be committed to the game, or rather to the video game. So
yeah,
but
it's tough. Fortnite's a hell of a game. I love.
Yeah,
Fortnite.
I mean,
played some Fortnite this morning.
I mean, I understand. I know it's very popular, and I'm sure that there's times where there's a lot of famous people on there that you don't actually know who's on there. So, who knows? You could have been playing against Patrick Laine. He's probably playing between intermissions. So
the coach is drawing up some X's and O's, talking about how everyone needs to back check, and he's in his stall with his like Nintendo Switch playing Fortnite.
Absolutely. All right. Other hockey news. Obviously, we are fast approaching the end of the season. We are, as of this recording, we're 2 games into the Stanley Cup Final. By the time this goes live, we'll be 3 games into the Stanley Cup Final. The series is shifting back to Edmonton. First 2 games, Florida is up 2-0. Edmonton looked to have something going in game 1 or game 2, and the better team, just a relentless hockey team in Florida, and 2-0. 91% of teams that have gone up 2-0 in the Stanley Cup Final have won in the end. The Penguins are one of are kind of in both senses in both of this. In 2008, they went down 2-0 and lost. 2009, they went down 2-0 and won. In 16 and 17, they went up 2-0 in both years and won. So they've been on both sides of this coin for the good and bad. But Snail, Edmonton got to win 2 in Edmonton. The way Florida's playing right now, they have a very 2016 vibe for me, whereas I think the Penguins just at one point said, you can throw everything at us. We are not losing. You're not beating us over the course of 7 games. Obviously, that should have been a series that ended in 5 if it wasn't for Martin Jones going God mode in Game 5 of that series. They have a feeling of we got here. We were here last year. We got a taste. You're not stopping us this year. It just seems like even when Edmonton gets anything going, it falls flat. Bobrovsky comes up with a few big saves. The Panthers eventually get the offense going, and they just overwhelm the Oilers. And right now, I just feel like it's just too much for Edmonton. Maybe they still won. Maybe they get one in Edmonton, and Florida gets a chance to clinch it home, which would obviously be cool. But I just don't see them knocking off Florida at this point.
God no, dude. Florida is exposing like Edmonton. They are showing Connor McDavid everything that his team doesn't have.
Yeah,
they're showing the not just the grit, because they've got Kane, they've got Perry, they've got Sam Carrick, they've got Darnell Nurse who can and that Darnay. Those guys can sure rack up some hits or whatever, but it's the well-timed hits. It's the hits with purpose. It's the physicality with purpose. It's the skill players on Florida not backing down from a 50-50 puck battle. It's just the also the structure that they play with too. It is what it is. It's Florida, just they're a well-oiled machine, and I've heard that a lot. Heard them described as that a lot, and it's ironic because they're playing the Oilers. So it's just it sucks for Connor in Canada. But everyone says, Connor deserves his cup. Connor deserves this and that. Nothing's just he's gonna win a hell of a lot of individual awards over his career. He's an unreal talent, but this isn't an individual sport. You need good players. You need superstars. But it takes a hell of a lot more than a guy who puts up 125 points a year to win.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Oilers of old with Gretzky. He was that guy, but they had Messier, who's a hell of a leader. They had Coffey. They had all the pieces around him. That also was a different era that's almost unrelatable to the game right now. But my point being, it takes a lot more than that, and Florida has just about everything going for them right now, including a goaltender who's let in one goal against the best offensive team in the league, essentially, over 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, they're good. I mean, I don't know. It felt like maybe from the start, it was kind of destiny. They just weren't going to be denied, and they haven't been denied. They're just a darn good hockey team. There's really all there is to say about it. Nothing I've seen through 2 games has really surprised me. Obviously, that arena is going to be a cauldron, but it would, of everything Florida does well, they would go out there in the first 5 minutes and completely silence that crowd with a goal. Bobrovsky with a few big saves. It's tough to see a comeback here for me. Just too much talent. On Florida.
Hurt.
Yeah, Kane's hurt. Everybody's hurt. The goaltending matchup is just not favorable to, and again, Stuart Skinner hasn't played bad. It's just he's got to match Bobrovsky save for save when Florida's playing like this, and he hasn't. And that's, again, nothing against him, because Florida has just been relentless with on the puck. In the offensive zone, defensive zone, neutral zone, doesn't matter where, they are a nightmare. Obviously, the questions about Barkov, it looks like he's going to play in Game 3. Draisaitl with a bad hit.
How is that not a suspension?
Because it's Stanley Cup Final and it's Leon Draisaitl. The fact that I saw people calling for a suspension was
me.
I'm just like, there's no way they're suspending him unless Barkov is on a stretchered off or something like that.
So you think that like player safety would do an eye for an eye type of deal if he was really hurt?
I mean, if he was in a situation where he was seriously hurt, I don't know if you can ignore it. I just, again, bad hit, should have been a game, misconduct in the moment. The knee was bad too. That was correctly called, I believe.
Losterinen or whatever.
Yeah, a very bad. Very bad knee on knee hit. But the Draisaitl hit, you got to call it. Like on the ice, it's got to be 5 in a game. Should he have been suspended? Yeah. It was very blatant. It was not an incidental contact. It was dirty. It was up high. It was late. In the regular season, even with no suspension history, he probably gets it. But I don't have faith in the Department of Player Safety to ever do the right thing.
The inconsistencies, Robbie, it drives me nuts.
They quite clearly value playoff games over regular season games. They've openly admitted that. That's not like a conspiracy theory.
No.
And it's one of Edmonton. Honestly, if it was Darnell Nurse, they probably would have suspended him. If it was Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, they probably would have suspended him.
If that was Kachuk on Draisaitl and Draisaitl left with the game, sussy.
Yeah, I don't like the hit. I think it should have been suspended, but the fact that people were expecting or were surprised there was no suspension kind of blew my mind, given the player and the situation, the stage that we're in now. So that did not surprise me one bit that he was not suspended. It looks like Barkov will play. Hopefully he does, because I mean he's had a phenomenal playoffs. He's going to be in the conversation for Conn Smythe, assuming Florida wins it. But a bad hit by Draisaitl. But was I surprised there was no suspension? Absolutely not. I've watched the NHL long enough to know that they were not getting a suspension out short of a catastrophic injury. Let's put it that way.
So, you know what? Now that we're in the weeds about it, if it was a 5-inning game, I think that would have silenced a lot of the chatter around the suspension and all that. It's just that, dude, on a game in November, that's a suspension. That's a 1 game.
Oh, absolutely, it's a suspension in a regular season situation.
The other thing I wanted to ask, Robbie, is do you remember in 2008 Stanley Cup Final? Sid got there, in his career relatively quickly compared to McDavid getting here in his 9th year. Do you remember the pouting and kind of the boo-hooing around Sid losing outside of the Penguins market like they are for McDavid right now?
No, I think mostly it was euphoria outside of the Pittsburgh market, to be honest.
People didn't want him to get the cup? Or people were happy?
I won't say they didn't. It just maybe he didn't quite earn it yet. I mean, he was only in his third year at that point. And again, back then was when the complaints about crying to the refs were much more intense than they were now. Across the league, not just in places like rivalry places like Philadelphia or Washington.
I hate that stigma about Sid. The league was in transition from the clutching and grabbing era and the stick in and the holding.
Yeah,
it's not where the league was at now, where you have players that have been only playing in an NHL where that is the rules. There were dinosaurs still when Sid was playing.
Oh yeah.
And they were abusing him. He got so much abuse, and he's fighting for his space out there. He can't fight. He's not a heavyweight. He can't stick up. He can't drop the mitts with some of those guys. His only outlet for some fair treatment on the ice was to bark at the refs. Like, you're watching the same game I'm in right now. What? I hate that stigma against him. I understand why, and not to say sometimes he didn't go overboard maybe a little bit. Like, I think sometimes he would really, really give it to refs. But people were doing everything they could. I mean, I think right now kids would call it the Caitlin Clark treatment.
In a way, yeah. I mean, there's always the kind of like that next superstar that definitely is bullied and kind of pushed around, though not deserving it. And people kind of shrug it off as, oh, well, that's just you got to earn your stripes kind of thing. And it's unfair, and really.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the reason I brought it up was I just feel like there's so much kind of like boo-hooing over this whole like McDavid needs his cup type of deal. It is, I guess you kind of illuminated, is a little bit different than Sid, where McDavid's been putting up Gretzky numbers for years now.
Yeah.
And I guess with the individual success, you'd hope for someone like him to have gotten, some team success, maybe have a cup by now, or at least have been in a final before this year. but it's not been him. It's the team around. It's the organization. And God, we all love using Edmonton Oilers. I love using Edmonton Oilers as a punching bag for their shortcomings with all those first overall picks. They could have done what the Penguins did. I feel like, you know what I mean? They've had more opportunities to build through the draft and have success than just about anyone I can really think of off the top of my head. But anyways, I guess that kind of clears that up a little bit. I just feel like there's so much like Connor deserves this, and it's like, well, the team is not built. Look what Florida is. That's how you build a stand, like the structure, the well-roundedness, the goaltending, the allotment of money. It just works. Where Edmonton,
agreed.
It's very it's kind of a chaotic assembly of a team.
Absolutely, and yeah, they're very Again, I didn't think they'd be at this point, and again, credit to them for getting through the West. It was obviously an absolute dogfight. The West was a gauntlet to begin with. Florida, I picked them from the beginning just because I felt like there's some good teams in the East, but it just felt like you weren't stopping them, and I really still don't feel like there's really much in their way at this point. So again, things can change in a hurry. Obviously, still need two. The final two are going to be the hardest. And they got to find a way to win at least one, I think, in Edmonton, because again, you want to finish as few games as possible, because it doesn't really, in the end, it doesn't really matter where you do it as long as you do it. But winning at home would obviously be fun. But I say that as a bitter Penguins fan, who's never really had
never won at home.
Never won at home. Only had one chance, unfortunately. So, Snail, any other hockey news that you can think of? Again, we're kind of running into this. It'll pick up here in about a week once the season officially concludes, because everything kind of is going to come pretty rapidly then. I will say that I think since the 1st of July free agency opens and it's on a Monday, that week we may forego our traditional mailbag and do a free agency report like we record on Monday, talk about free agency rather than a mailbag that's also a holiday week. For Canadians and Americans, because Canada Day, I believe, is on the 1st, and then the 4th of July. You can probably parse when that is. So, so that week we might forego our mailbag and do just do like a free agent, since our recording day will be on free agency opening, do a full-on recap and see where things stand after day one of free agency. But as for hockey news right now, it's mostly Stanley Cup. Looking at the NHL's website real quick, Utah announced their jerseys for next season. Nothing too exciting. They're obviously going with Utah Hockey Club for their first season in existence while they sort out the final name. They're nothing flashy. They're black and white with a nice blue, like a baby blue color. Nothing too crazy there.
Night Walker blue.
Yeah, kind of like that. Getting back to our Game of Thrones style thing. We're men of many talents here. We will talk about weather, which kind of became an inside joke between us, and then again, Game of Thrones. We know we're both passionate about. And then hockey, obviously, as well. One other thing here, Ryan Warsofsky, who is the brother of former Penguin David Warsofsky. Speaking of Dan Quinn, he is Dan Quinn's replacement in San Jose. He will be a first-time head coach. He was an assistant under Quinn. He is only 36 years old. So if you're like me, you've accomplished much less than he has in his life, but he is the new San Jose head coach. I don't know what other openings are out there at the moment. Oh, Alex Steen, former Blues legend, is joining the front office with Doug Armstrong in St. Louis, with the plans that in 2026, Alexander Steen will be promoted to general manager, and Doug Armstrong will take over president of hockey operations. So Alexander Steen, was he there for the Cup run?
Yep.
Yeah, so he was there for the Cup run. in St. Louis. He was a longtime St. Louis Blue. He will be an assistant general manager until taking over in 2 years. That was just broke today. Snail, anything on your end, hockey-wise, to discuss before we wrap up here?
Yeah, Garrett apparently is a Flyer fan now.
Oh, that is right. Yes, I forgot about that. I do not have any context on that, so Snail will have to provide that context. But Snail texted me, I believe, on Wednesday night saying, by the way, Garrett is a Flyers fan now.
Yeah, a little bit of context for that is simply he actually finally responded to my memes I've been sending him. And he just kind of threw some profanity at me, and then he said a couple of other things that I can't read on here. Coming at me, he's a little feisty. He probably still has shin splints.
His shin splints are probably flaring up.
Yeah, it's funny though, because as a Flyer fan now, no one in Philadelphia would give a shit if you have shin splints. In fact, they'll probably just flick a cigarette at you if you were struggling. We were discussing the hiring of, as Garrett put it here, Sully's best friend, BFF. But he did some decent work on the PP in San Jose. Become a Flyers fan like me after I retired from recording. The dark side isn't so bad. An orange would look good on you.
So yeah, apparently Garrett is now a Flyers fan. Make of that what you will. Maybe he's just bitter. I don't know.
Watch for a podcast to pop up under FFSN called The Skating Gritty.
And it's just Garrett.
By Garrett and Patrick Damp.
It's Garrett, but like a pseudonym. It's just him using but it's very clearly his voice. Like, it's AI Garrett.
It's AI.
Yeah. So yeah, Garrett. So if you follow Garrett on whatever social media you prefer, you can ask him how his Flyer fandom is going. Definitely won't be disappointing in any one way or another, because they never disappoint their fans. So good choice by Garrett. Solid work on his end. So all right, so now if you don't got anything else, I don't got anything else. We'll close this episode and head into the weekend.
I think that's all I got. Good. We'll have some playoff. I did want to say quickly before we close this out, and this won't take very long.
Yeah.
Florida stuck in some weather. Their plane stuck in some weather last night, and I don't think anybody cared. But I did notice that Brian Hayes and the guys on TSN were scolding the Florida Panthers, begging for this to be. They need to be reprimanded, and that the NHL should, or the NHL should no longer let teams be in charge of their own charters anymore. That this is an embarrassment, and the people in Edmonton are going to miss their press time with Barkov and Sam Bennett. They're there for 4 days or whatever, 3 days. I don't know why they're tripping out. I don't know why Canada's up in arms that Florida didn't get off the ground in time because it was unsafe, and that they're actually calling for the league to take the power out of the hands of the teams as far as charters go, and how it's actually just complete, their words, not mine, complete monkey business. It's super unprofessional. It's embarrassing. It's a bad look. It's like, what are you guys talking about?
That's very.
Is that just Canadian? Is that just
that's a very Canadian
Toronto?
thing.
Toronto.
Yeah,
outlook?
that sounds like it's a Toronto outlook, because I don't know anybody in Edmonton who cares. What are you gonna do?
I mean, they got there
yesterday.
8 p.m. their time. Toronto was actually tracking the flight. They actually were on their show, which is a podcast as well, and they said, we have confirmation that Florida is finally in the air, and they're just like, finally in the air. It's 4 p.m. Eastern time.
There no Canadian teams in the finals. Putting a moratorium on that until we can figure out what's going on with the Canadian hockey media.
I thought that was an insane take. Do you guys? I know that. Look at us, Robbie. We're talking about Game of Thrones, and we know that it's slim pickings right now for hockey news. But to be scolding the Panthers as if anybody would jump. Like, I don't think even the average fan gives two shits about that.
As long as they got there in time for the game, I really don't know why anybody cares.
They were scolding them, saying that they're not even going to get time to get acclimated to the Western time zone, and I'm like, I think Florida smells blood in the water, and they're just going to play.
Gosh, if they come out if they come out tonight,
if they win on Edmonton soil, dude.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
My
If they
God.
come out and flatten them tonight, yes, that'll be a crow eating moment for some of these goobers that were that mad about Florida not getting in Edmonton because of storms, not because they decided to hang out at the beach.
No, they weren't at the airport bar.
Yeah, they literally could knock it off the ground because it was dangerous storms were coming through. But
they were demanding they leave a day earlier. They're like, how do you not leave one day earlier? You're depriving the Edmonton media of getting to talk to Florida stars. And it's like, oh my God, you guys are pathetic.
Imagine if this would have been like an Eastern Conference final with Toronto, how mad they would have been if like they had
if like a Western team was delayed because of storms, like if Dallas was delayed or something.
Yeah.
I
mean most of the time you can't even get out of Edmonton because it's frozen shut. So
they'd be arrested at the border.
Yeah,
they would be calling for them to be arrested at the border for wasting the time of the media.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever.
I'll always take a shot at Toronto media, and any chance to pile on about how ridiculous they can be. I love doing that. So I just thought that was ridiculous. Give your heads a shake up there in Toronto. I just think they've got the equivalent of like angst from Blue Balls of not winning for so long.
They're just getting used to it again. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's all I got, Robbie. Big game tonight. Let's. I think I said Panthers in 5, gentlemen's sweep. Honestly, though, it looks like it could be even quicker than that. So.
Yeah, I mean, if Edmonton doesn't win, I think Edmonton obviously this is about as must win as you can get without it being an absolute elimination game. But I mean, if Edmonton doesn't win tonight, I think we could be seeing the Stanley Cup handed out on Saturday, which for the good of hockey, it probably needs to end on as quickly as possible rather than being dragged all the way to June 24th because, I mean, God forbid, they don't get a second day off.
For real. Well, look forward to that. Look forward to. I mean, we're halfway through June. Halfway through June.
We are halfway through June. Yep.
Will Sidney Crosby sign on July 1st?
We will find out. All right. So that's all we got for this week. Once again, thank you guys for listening. So for Snail, I'm Robbie. We will talk to you guys next week.